All right, this last story is relevant to a recent video that we talked about where we talked about Interstate 285 and how Atlanta's insane growth that's been going on since forever overwhelmed 285 and has made it more into a local road than a bypass. But according to some recent data, Atlanta's growth streak might finally be coming to an end. Let's take a look at this article real quick. I want to show you what they found here. And it says, since the invention of the air conditioner, Atlanta has known one constant, and that is growth. But it might finally be cooling off. So basically what they're saying is that for the first time since forever, Atlanta posted a negative of 1,330 people in the metro area. This is Metro Atlanta, not just Atlanta city limits. So it's saying it's the first time Atlanta lost migrants since the Bureau started tracking this stuff 30 years ago. Wow. Now, that sounds like a small number, 1,330, but when you think about how many people have been moving to Atlanta, the fact that it's a negative at all is just crazy. And now, you might remember that a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, we talked about how Tampa, Florida, was finally starting to slow down in growth as well. So this is starting to become interesting as people have been flocking to these southern metros from the Midwest, from the Northeast. Is it finally settling down? Let's see what else they found. They're saying weak hiring is going on, higher than average office vacancies. Wow. A Buckhead apartment building went into foreclosure. So there it is. Look at the chart. So even though it's a small loss, it's significant because you look at every other year, you got 5-figure increases in the Atlanta metro area. And it says surging housing costs and endless traffic are pushing people to choose smaller, cheaper cities. Now, this is the point I wanted to really get into. So, something I've been thinking about or wondered about this theory is there, because a lot of people assume that when you're talking about traffic, when you're talking about roads and the infrastructure that you need, that growth is perpetual, growth is inevitable, and it's going to go forever. If you keep building more roads, then people are going to keep moving there. But are they really? Is there a limit to how far people will be willing to live from the core city before they stop coming? Because as I've seen around America, people are willing to live pretty far from the core of a city in order to get a cheap single family home. But what's the maximum distance they're willing to go? Because in Atlanta now, you got to go way up into the foothills now to get some of the cheaper housing. Is anything even down in Fulton? I mean, Alpharetta, forget about it. So has Atlanta reached that point to where to get a cheaper home in the Atlanta metro area is going to require living too far from Atlanta itself for most people to stomach? So if you look at this couple right here that they're talking about, okay, right now Atlanta has 29 counties in the metro area and has 6.3 million people. So you got some photos here. Okay, now this is the other interesting part. Is it saying that a lot of these Sunbelt metros are starting to slow down? You see Tampa, you see Orlando, you see Phoenix, and these are places that people have been flocking to. But is it getting to the point now where they spread out about as far as they can spread out before it's just too far out and people are now going to smaller metros? So where are the people going now instead? Because they're still moving to the south. But as the growth slows in these very large metro areas you see here on the screen, people are now starting to go places like Knoxville, Chattanooga, Wilmington, North Carolina, the foothills of the mountains of North Carolina. Those small mountain towns in western North Carolina are seeing a lot of growth. Some of the mountain areas in northern Georgia are starting to get some of the growth. So Americans keep moving in search of this cheaper single family home. And right here in the article, they said something that we said on the last video. Atlanta is exactly 1 hour away from Atlanta. And I was wondering about this myself because one of the reasons that I would never live in Atlanta is the traffic. And a lot of people kept moving there despite how horrible the traffic is. And Atlanta is really in a tough spot with traffic, as they really don't have any real way to fix it. Because I think at this point, we can state that Cobb County and Gwinnett County are not going to allow any MARTA transportation in their areas. They're probably going to be an outer perimeter. So all you're going to get is these interchange tweaks in the Atlanta area that they help a little bit, but there's not a real solution for Atlanta, unfortunately. So yeah, you see these people now, they're moving up to Chattanooga. So let's look at Atlanta on the map and see what the options are. So as Atlanta gets overcrowded, people are looking at Chattanooga, Knoxville. They're looking at Greenville, South Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina. Let me know what you guys think about this story, though. Do you think that there's a maximum distance that people will? How far would you be willing to live from the core city in a suburb before it's just too far, and you just say, I'm just not going to live in that place? Or does it not matter to you as long as you get the home that you can afford? But yeah, this is very interesting. Now, this is just a small blip for right now. Like, we need to see some more data before we can say it's an actual trend. But it's just interesting because you never see population loss and Atlanta metro area have never been mentioned in the same sentence before.